The movie begins with a couple, April and Finn, traveling to New York to visit Finn's family. During their flight, they encounter a severe storm. Finn looks out the window and is shocked to see a shadow in the clouds that resembles a shark. Initially, he thinks he's hallucinating, but when he looks again, he clearly sees a shark in the sky. Knowing no one would believe him, he decides to keep quiet and closes the window. Shortly afterward, the plane experiences heavy turbulence. Finn opens the window again and sees the shark strike the plane's wing. Alarmed, he tries to warn the other passengers, but since no one else has seen it, the flight attendant and an FBI agent on board dismiss his claims, urging everyone to stay calm. As the chaos escalates, the flight attendant tries to reassure the passengers, but outside the windows, the situation is far worse. Thousands of sharks are flying wildly through the stormy sky. One of these airborne predators slams into the aircraft's turbine, causing it to catch fire and lose altitude. The damage is severe, and the engine detaches from the plane, crashing into its side and ripping a hole in the fuselage. Passengers are sucked out of the hole, triggering mass panic. Despite the flight attendant's pleas for calm, a shark flies into the plane, biting off her head in one swift motion. In the cockpit, sharks relentlessly attack the windshield until one finally breaks through, dragging the co-pilot out by the head. The captain tries to save her, but both are pulled out of the plane along with the shark. With the cockpit empty, Finn realizes that if no one acts, everyone will die. He rushes to the controls, determined to make an emergency landing. April and the FBI agent follow him, but as April nears her husband, one of the plane's exits blows open. She clings to a seat for dear life, struggling not to be ejected into the stormy sky. As the storm continues to wreak havoc, a shark flies towards April. The FBI agent throws his gun to her for defense. April fires a few shots but can't stop the predator in time. The shark devours her hand, gun and all. Meanwhile, Finn manages to activate the landing gear and brings the plane down for an emergency landing. After the chaos, Finn is interviewed on national television, where he recounts the bizarre events of the shark-filled storm. People laugh off his story, dismissing it as crazy. At the hospital, April is rushed to surgery for her injuries, while Finn anxiously waits outside. Once the operation is over, Finn goes to check on her. But before they can talk, they are interrupted by a weather forecast warning of an even bigger storm approaching, one filled with thousands of airborne sharks. Alarmed, Finn tries to call his sister, Ellen, to warn her and her daughter of the impending danger. However, Ellen is touring the Statue of Liberty and has her phone on silent. As she and her daughter are taking pictures, they run into some of Ellen's friends, who mention the plane accident. Concerned, Ellen checks her phone and sees multiple missed calls from Finn. She immediately contacts him, and he frantically warns her to leave the Statue of Liberty and head to Manhattan, which might offer more safety. As soon as the call with Finn ends, Ellen is gripped with fear as she gazes into the water, spotting hundreds of sharks, an unusual and terrifying sight in the region. Minutes later, the ferry arrives to take her group away from Liberty Island. During the crossing, sharks begin following the boat, and soon one leaps out of the water, slamming into the face of one of Ellen's friends. The friend tries to electrocute the shark with a stun gun, but it's too late. Her face is gruesomely torn apart, and both she and the shark die. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Finn hurries to the baseball stadium where his brother-in-law Martin and youngest nephew Vaughn are attending a game. He tries to reach Martin by phone but gets no response, as Martin has turned it off. Upon arriving at the stadium, Finn runs into Sky, an old-school friend, who helps him find the rest of his family. When he finally meets up with Martin, Finn urges them to leave before the storm hits, but the group insists on staying to watch the game. Their decision to stay soon proves disastrous. A waterspout forms in the nearby river, touching down and transforming into a full-blown tornado. With it comes a horrifying sight, thousands of sharks being hurled into the stadium crowd. Chaos erupts as the sharks rain down on the spectators. Finn and their group rush through the mayhem, grabbing sports equipment from a stand to use as makeshift weapons. They head toward the subway, hoping to escape underground. They board a train, anxiously hoping the subway tunnel hasn't flooded. Unbeknownst to them, a few kilometers away, a maintenance team is working to seal off valves to prevent more water from entering the tunnels. As the workers walk through the access cave, a massive crocodile emerges from the water, brutally biting off the head of one of the men. His colleague tries to escape, but the pressure from a nearby valve causes it to burst, flooding the cave. With the rush of water, sharks pour in, devouring both the crocodile and the surviving worker. Back on the subway, Finn peers outside and sees an enormous wave of water carrying sharks straight toward the train. The next station, filled with passengers eagerly waiting to board, is suddenly overrun by the speeding train, followed closely by the predators. In moments, the sharks flood the platform, attacking the helpless people. Realizing the sharks could breach the train at any second, Finn and the others brace themselves for the worst. As the chaos intensifies on the subway, Finn quickly instructs everyone to move to the front cars. In the scramble, a police officer helping to guide the passengers is suddenly grabbed by the leg by a shark. One of Martin's friends leaps into action, swinging a giant baseball bat to save the officer. The friend is pulled into the water and devoured by another shark. While everyone else rushes to safety, Finn notices a woman caught by a shark and tries to rescue her. Despite his efforts, he's unable to save her, and the shark turns its attention to him. Armed with a bat, Finn fights back, but the shark bites through the bat effortlessly. With no other options, he grabs a jagged piece of wood and drives it into the shark's head, killing it instantly. Realizing that staying on the train is too dangerous, Martin suggests they pull the emergency stop. Vaughn does so, and as soon as the train halts, the group rushes to the surface. Once they make it to the streets, they flag down a taxi and start discussing ways to fight back against the relentless flying sharks. They agree to head to Times Square, where they can gather supplies to make makeshift weapons. Finn heads to a nearby pizzeria and convinces the owner to give him some propane gas for creating makeshift bombs. Meanwhile, Martin and Vaughn go to a market to gather materials for explosives and pick up a powerful toy gun they believe could help in the battle. The group, now armed with a sleek sword, heads back to the taxi, ready for the next step in their battle against the flying sharks. Meanwhile, Ellen and her group disembark from the ferry and rush to meet her brother, Finn. Along the way, a man offers to help them, saying they could take shelter in his nearby office. As they make their way, the man drops his suitcase and goes back to retrieve it, just as a hurricane sweeps past the Statue of Liberty, sending the giant concrete head flying. The head crushes the man instantly, a brutal end to his day. Further along, two city workers notice Ellen and her group being chased by the sharks and attempt to help. But as one of the workers is getting into their truck, a shark strikes, killing him on the spot. Ellen takes control of the truck and starts driving in a desperate attempt to escape. Unfortunately, the truck's slow speed makes it impossible to outrun the flying sharks and the massive debris from the hurricane. As they drive, part of the Statue of Liberty's crown flies toward them, and another worker riding in the back of the truck is struck by the debris, fatally injuring him. Knowing they won't survive at this speed, Ellen makes a bold move and drives onto the sidewalk, crashing into a pole. After several kilometers of desperate pedaling, Ellen and her group finally grab some bikes to speed up their journey to the meeting point. At the hospital, the winds from the tornado are picking up and debris is being flung against the windows. The hospital staff begin transferring everyone to the basement for safety. Seeing this as her chance to escape, April sneaks out and commandeers a fire truck parked nearby, determined to reunite with Finn. The city's rivers overflow due to the flooding caused by the storm, and the floodwaters bring a new horror: sharks. Finn's group, stranded in a taxi as the floodwaters rise, knows they'll soon be shark bait if they don't escape. Thinking quickly, Finn asks the taxi driver for a rope, tying it to a nearby pole to create a makeshift swing. The group uses it to cross to a higher, drier area, but when the taxi driver tries to follow, he makes a fatal mistake. His leg brushes the water, and in an instant, sharks leap up and devour him, dragging the rope with them. Left with no other option, Finn has to improvise. In a daring move, he leaps from spot to spot, literally jumping over the sharks like he's playing hopscotch. Miraculously, he makes it across, and the group races to the building where they plan to meet Ellen. They realize she hasn't made it yet. Now, with time running out and the storm intensifying, Finn and his group decide to split up and search for Ellen. Finn and Sky go to the top floor to set the bombs while Martin and Vaughn wait below for Ellen and her daughter. Meanwhile, Ellen and her group nearly reach the building when a whale shark falls from a tornado, crushing Ellen's friend. Shocked, they rush inside and reunite with Martin and Vaughn. On the rooftop, Finn prepares the bombs while Sky makes a slingshot from a rubber band. They launch the explosives at the tornadoes, but it doesn't work. Suddenly, sharks start falling from the sky. Sky uses a sword to slice them in midair. One shark crashes into the roof, creating a huge hole and knocking over a water tank, flooding the lower floors. Martin, Ellen, and the kids barely escape the flood and rush to the emergency stairs. Finn and Sky try launching 2 bombs at the tornado, but it's ineffective. As a final effort, they make a bigger bomb and throw it into the hurricane, which kills some sharks but causes a fire in the building, raining down burning sharks on them. Finn and Sky head down the stairs, finding their group trapped between flames above and sharks below. They try to open the locked fire exit on the 4th floor, but it won't budge. Martin distracts a shark while Finn grabs a fire axe. He swings it at the shark as it leaps, hitting it on the head. With time running out, Finn uses the axe to break down the door, and they all escape down the fire escape. Just then, April arrives in a fire truck and drives them to the Empire State Building, where two tornadoes are merging. Meteorologists on TV warn of a third hurricane approaching, threatening to create the biggest cyclone in history. Upon arriving, Finn meets the mayor, who tells him they will use the building's Freon gas tanks, which create cold air, to combat the storm. After saying goodbye to his family, the mayor hands Finn a chainsaw. As Finn climbs into the fire truck to give a speech, a massive white shark falls from the tornado, charging at him. Finn revs up the chainsaw and slices the approaching shark in half. Sky joins him, and together they head to the building's rooftop. Sky climbs to the tanks to connect cables while Finn works on linking the electrical wire to the lightning rod, aiming to trigger an explosion with a lightning strike. Just as he's focused, a massive shark lunges at him. Finn tries to start the chainsaw for defense, but it fails. In a last-minute rescue, April appears with a chainsaw hand and slices open the shark's belly, saving Finn. With everything set, Finn tells April to come down, but the cables get loose. He calls for Sky's help, and she reconnects the cable. Finn then uses the chainsaw as an extension cord to reach the lightning rod. When the lightning strikes, it triggers an explosive freeze that pushes back the hurricane. However, as they plummet, Sky is consumed by sharks, and Finn gets swallowed too. Inside the shark, he starts the chainsaw and cuts his way out. During the fall, Finn finds a hook and uses it to tame one of the falling sharks, stopping their descent when it gets impaled on the Empire State Building. He lands safely on the terrace where he reunites with April. As more sharks descend, he discovers April's severed arm inside a nearby dead shark, along with a police pistol. He grabs it and shoots the remaining sharks. Once the last of the sharks have fallen, Finn removes the engagement ring from April's severed hand and kneels, asking her to marry him again. The Sharknado disaster comes to an end, but what about you? How would you survive these flying fish? Do you think you could have made it through this chaos? Thanks for watching.